All right. So here we are, staff testimony of the week. This is our pick for this week. Now, there's so many things that happened during this week, so it was really hard to pick. There was multiple deliverances and healings. We had manifest. So there's amazing testimonies from the starting point, when people came back and the things that happened. So lots of testimonies, but I think this one by far is one that we want to give a big up because God just blew our mind. And since this is the year of transcendence, this was definitely a mind blower. Did that just happen? You talk about me. So anyway, I just got a notification and I need to pass it on to the person who's going to be sharing about what it was. Now, I wasn't there, but we got the opportunity to hear something that happened on Saturday, right? It happened on Saturday. So why don't you talk about it, Prophet Andre, and then we'll bring it over here and actually hear what it was that happened, and you guys can get a sample of it. So tell us what happened.
Cool. So on Saturday we were doing a prophetic activation session. It was just an hour where we were activating the body to move prophetically. During the time I felt strongly like Jazz and the team were supposed to stay on the stage and just kind of worship, continue worship as we released the body to minister to themselves. And during that time, we began to hear some additional things come out of the speaker. And so when we listened in closely, we began to hear the sound of trumpets, but there was no brass on the stage, there was no horns. So what ended up happening is Dave came over and him and I were talking. He grabbed his phone and put it down before the speaker. And we just began to ask the musicians to stop playing. And eventually we got to the place where we had no musicians playing at all, and all you heard was the sound of the trumpets coming out of the speakers. At that point, we kind of got everybody who was in a room to focus forward and kind of come and just kind of hear what was happening and participate in the moment. It was a miracle. It was a God-sized thing that words can't explain. And so we just wanted everybody to come and not look to figure out what to do in it, but just to take in the moment. And so, yeah, I'll hand it over to Jazz.
Yeah, you guys, before you play it, when you guys started to hear what was going on, you guys were kind of going through a moment of confusion or what's going on, trying to get it. So what was happening to you guys? Because it was different than maybe what was happening to other people until they entered into that.
Yeah, well, we started to hear the horns, like Prophet Andre said, and then we specifically asked the electric guitar player to stop because that was the thing that we thought would sound the closest like a horn. So we asked him to stop, and once he stopped, it was almost as if the sound got louder.
Yeah.
But it was the sound. It was trumpets coming through the speakers, coming through the monitors, and coming through the speakers. So for us, it was just when we realized that none of us were playing, we were kind of all looking around to make sure none of us were doing anything. When we realized it wasn't us, I know it. For me and for the rest of the team, it was like the fear of the Lord.
Yeah.
It was like a really holy moment. I know we all kind of fell on our faces and started crying and whatever. Everybody was just freaking out. It was just the fear of the Lord moment. It's like God's really here right now. He's in the room.
So they did the best to record it with this recording here. Pastor Dave was able to pick some of that. So we're going to play that for you to see if you can hear some of it. And you need to get a little closer to the phone here and where the speaker is so that you guys can listen in. So check this out. can start hearing it. There it is.
That's not us playing. That's not us. That's not us.
Come forward, come forward. Let's surrender. I hear in the spirit that a fracture is being healed. I hear that a fracture is being repaired and restored.
Jesus.
All right, so hopefully you got to hear that. We know we were putting it up from speaker to the microphone up there, so hopefully you got to hear some of that. But it was a powerful moment. I think we've been just like going over it. So there's kind of a couple things I got from that moment when I got to rehear it. Is I noticed that whenever we start to and Prophet Andre started to communicate a little bit more later on, started decreeing things. What I noticed is that when that happened, the sound diminished, and it was no longer coming out. And then when he stopped, then the sound started coming back. For me, it spoke to me about the order of heaven. It showed me how that when we have those moments like that, when we start to speak in those moments, then heaven, because of the order of it, they're not going to try to override what's being declared or being spoken. So they'll put their trumpets down, they'll put their instruments down till you're done, until you're finished, and then afterwards they'll say, okay, and they'll go back into that. So that to me teaches me something about glory moments, that if we want them to increase, then we're just going to participate in a way that we don't make statements, but we just are there and enjoy it.
Yeah.
But to know that if we're going to make a statement, then heaven's going to stop until we're done and then move afterwards. And even for us as worship leaders or people that are there, paying attention to that, because whenever they treat the declaration from the word, they treat the declaration that they're like a holy hush that comes on the people. And so for us and those who especially play instruments, we've got to pay attention that we don't override whenever declaration is being preached, that the instrumentation is not more important than the released word of God. And so I think if we can take away from that and give a strategy of how to interact when glory moments happen and when God is doing something and when we're speaking the word, or when there's a manifestation of glory that comes into a place. So anyway, and then we'll be discussing those things. We want to get your feedback and testimonies of different things that you thought were OMG moments during Manifest and throughout the week. But that was our pick for this week. It was the processional trumpets from heaven
Yeah.
that just blew us away.
Yeah.
So God is awesome.